All right. Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, we're gonna do the, I always do the intro. Welcome back to another alternative factuals video. Blah 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 blah. Like I said, still in the process of moving. It is a whole lot to deal with, and unfortunately, I do this by myself. So there's that. But anyways, that's besides any point that I'm going to be making this evening or while I'm recording this, and and all that stuff. So obviously, it's the month of February, and I am a person of color. I am black. Got a nice little. I won't say dark chocolate, not deep, milk chocolate. There we go. Nice milk chocolate, cream filled, all that stuff. That's kind of my skin tone. But anyways, yes, I am African American and it's Black History Month. So you already know what I'm about to do. I'm about to be super cliche, and most of the videos for this month, or if not all of them, will be black centric in some way, shape, or form. And even though my channel is pretty much black centric, there's usually a chance of there being, pretty much just general information depending on what TV show or what information is being dropped for that week or that month or that day, etc, etc. So basically, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just make sure everything is somehow related to Black History Month. And this particular video, I'm going to be diving into more specifics of the history of black superheroes. Now, for some people out there, you may not have known that black superheroes have not always been around. And this all started mostly, comics were introduced way back in the early 1900s, and initially started with Superman, obviously. Well, that's why he's such a household name, and that's the reason why he's so popular, and he has one of the longest histories. And then after that, I believe it was shortly after that was like Batman, Shazam, stuff like that. Those are the mainstay characters for the most part when it comes to the oldest living comic book characters, and all that stuff. So before I dive into any of those details and all that jazz and all that hoo-ha, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're feeling. And let me know what you think about these videos, mostly because I want to put it this way. If some of these videos do popular, I might switch up formats from time to time, at least for Black History Month, and see how you feel about it. But yeah, so basically, if you like the format or a particular format that I might do for the month of February, and you feel like you want it to be a mainstay going forward for the channel, just let me know and I'll be sure to do that. But let's kind of just dive into it. So this is going to be kind of controversial video, more like a little not political, more like a it's definitely going to be interesting, and some people may not like it, but if you know me well, I really don't care. So the portrayal of black people or people in color in comics have been has basically had its beginnings, I will say around the 1960s. But for the most part, they originally did make an appearance when it came to like just seeing any African American character. The initial appearance of any superhero was like in 1934. And basically this was a character called Lothar from like a comic strip called Mandrake the Magician. And from what I've gathered and from what research says, he was basically the Prince of Seven Nations and the Federation of Jungle Tribes. Now, does that sound familiar? Somewhat. It's kind of like Black Panther to some degree. And he had a chance to become king and instead follow Mandrake to his world of travels, fighting crime, blah blah blah. Sounds very familiar. So I'm pretty sure Black Panther did draw inspiration from the character of Lothar in 1934 when it came to Mandrake and the Magician. Now, all Negro comics was a concept back in 1947 of June, and basically it was 15 cents, and it was solely by African American writers, artists, and a lot of other just people of color. But also the issue with this whole situation was, this comic did not overall, well, the comic company did not overall get the kind of clout that they needed, because obviously when it comes to things that are related to people of color, often, yeah, people of color may support it, but sometimes, in those times, especially in 1947, they was not with the shits at all. So it was like, I need to tone that down. So there we go. So the reason why I'm just saying all this stuff is mostly because I just wanted to lay some foundation that, comic books have not always portrayed, people of color, especially if they did portray people of color, they did not always portray them in such a way that was, very becoming. Even in the, I will say the Justice League of America, the 1979 edition where, Black Lightning appeared, for the most part. You see like this kind of same speech pattern when it comes to people of color, when it came to like Black Panther, when it came to, Falcon, when it came to Black Lightning, Static. Well, Static wasn't really as old, but when it came to pretty much any black character like Luke Cage, they had the same kind of lingo, like, get out my face, you jive turkey. Like, we even if they drew them a little better, the way that we talked always seemed to be like as if we didn't know proper English, or we only spoke in Ebonics or something like that, when that wasn't really the case. Obviously, were capable of speaking perfect English and, enunciating and, using proper punctuations when it comes to writing, all that stuff. Were capable of doing such, but comics did not always depict us as doing so. And just for the record, this is stuff, like I said, you can look it up. All Negro Comics actually was published out of Philadelphia mid-1947. And basically it was, like I said, drawn and, written solely by African-American writers and artists. And, basically it was just a very, it was very riveting for the time due to the nature of how things were basically playing out. Now, in the 1950s, the portrayal of a black man in a position of authority and a discussion of racism in a comic was basically the battle between, I'm reading this straight off the article, by the way, between Entertaining Comics editor William Gaines and the Comics Code Authority, which had been set up in 1954 to self-regulate the content of U.S. comics, amid fears that they were corrupting influence on youth. So basically, this is what I said literally about a minute ago. In 1956, eventually they started to kind of, they wanted to limit or kind of, censor a lot of what these black comics or black characters were saying, simply because they did not want to corrupt their youth, in air quotes. Basically what they're saying is that when more and more people started to introduce black characters and black superheroes and them starting to have a position of power, they felt like, no, you shouldn't be saying that in comic books. You don't want people to think like you really are in a position of power. Basically, like I said, if this video for some reason gets flagged, I really don't care. I don't really expect much monetization from this. But basically it was saying, I don't want none of y'all niggas to be running anything. That's basically what they're saying. And remember, this is 1956. I'm pretty sure that's the same language they use in the boardroom when seeing these characters kind of begin to kind of flourish and, come to light. And these things did happen, and unfortunately, we, even to this day, we still don't get the same amount of representation as our white counterparts. And, we're just now kind of introducing, gay and lesbian characters, black characters, Hispanic characters, just different ethnic and racial characters in general. So, we're still trying to catch up. It's way better than what it used to be, obviously, because we have different people writing, as well as people a lot more tolerant today, because, we are making progress, but I feel like we're not moving fast enough, in my opinion. But that's a whole different discussion for a whole different day, for a whole nother video. So it's basically just, trying to figure out, how can we make this, more palatable, so that way we can get our time to shine in comics. Now, like I said, this is just a foundation. Now, we've seen characters like, Black Panther, really making a rise in comics way back in the day in the 60s. And you had even Victor Stone, who plays Cyborg, and, you had Black Lightning, and you have all these characters who were actually being introduced as not only just black characters, but they were powerful, they were intelligent, and they weren't like the typical, I'm going to deck you in your face, jive turkey, or get out my face, pig type of black person. So it was really, really, at this point in time, when we start to get to the 60s, this is when things are really starting to turn. And chronologically speaking, I think Blue Marvel came out maybe in the, am I bugging? Maybe in the 70s? No. It was way earlier than that. So chronologically speaking, when it comes to when he was actually created, he was created by Kevin Graveau. But, according to comics, he existed since the 60s when it comes to, the actual comic itself in continuity. Now, what makes that comic very interesting is because that comic, I think personally drew a lot of inspiration to a lot of the information that I just, kind of told you guys when it came to the foundation of black characters in comics. But yeah, so I believe a lot of what was covered in the Blue Marvel comic book was a reflection of what the times were when he was initially introduced. Now, I say this because literally if you've read the Blue Marvel comics, the origin of Blue Marvel, basically he was a very powerful and still is a very, very powerful African American. Blue Marvel's power set is really off the charts in so many ways, and he's shy of basically reality warping. He has, cosmic awareness, he has different abilities, but he's just shy of completely warping reality. He can kind of manipulate matter to some degree, which is why he's definitely, I think, top 10, probably top 7 when it comes to most powerful characters in general. But he was a black man, he was extremely powerful. He was thriving in the 60s, but the thing was, as his superhero persona, he was not known to be a black man because obviously his identity was not known, and the government didn't know it either. So basically what happened is one day he had a battle, and somebody ripped off his mask, and then the world saw he's a black man. Now the first thought that they had in the show, or not in the show, in the comic book, was simply the fact that, oh my god, this dude is this powerful and he's black. Imagine what the black community will do if they find out that they have a black man who's literally on their side. Imagine what white people will think when they see like there's a black person who is this powerful. He's a threat. But at the same time, he has saved this planet. He has saved the city. He's done so much for our country. We can't just outright get rid of him, but we have to force him to retire. Now, initially, they actually did try to set him up and see if he would kill himself, not kill himself necessarily, like, hang himself. But ultimately, they sent him into a battle where they suspected that he might lose. But guess what? He did not lose. He's a Blue Marvel boy. Of course he wasn't going to lose. He had them good hands. He threw them good too. And he won. And the government, once they realized, like, okay, yes, he cannot be easily defeated, I think he needs to retire, they wiped his identity and they basically made him kind of retire due to the sake of, the political issues at that time, racism, white people, black people, segregation, and all that stuff. Now, because of his longevity, his ability to age really slowly, he still is alive, obviously, today, and very much kicking and very much still powerful with incalculable strength and, like I said, cosmic awareness and a whole bunch of different power sets. Now, the whole point that I say this is it sounds pretty much as if, like, minus some details, a lot of what his character was based on was a lot of what was happening when comic books were being created way back from like 1937 all the way until like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where, mostly I'll say 60s and 70s, where a lot of these characters were just now coming out. And then before the 60s, having a very powerful, dominant black character was extremely unheard of. It was not common. And a lot of them followed very ethnic stereotypes. They had physical caricatures that were being drawn, and stylized to kind of emphasize certain physical traits of black people and, their blackface and, the whole black exploitation era. Just there was a whole bunch of things wrong with, like the 40s, 50s, and 60s before you had characters like, Black Panther, Cyborg, and then just in general, like I said, the comic is a reflection of what the times were when, characters like black superheroes were coming out. And I think, in this day and age, even though we are in 2020 and, we're freshly into the new year, we should definitely, keep in mind that even though things are a lot better, yes, we do have black characters, and yes, some of the characters or a lot of the characters that we have access to that are black are extremely powerful in their own right. In reality, we need to still have more representation of characters, not just of black people, of those who are of Hispanic descent, Latino, Latina, those who are Muslim, whatever the case may be. We still need representation, but obviously it's Black History Month, so I'm talking about us right now. But ultimately, these characters, we did not always have the ability to express, our, desire for superheroes, because all we had to do was look up to white characters, Superman, Batman, even Shazam. Like, most of the characters we looked up to were white. And then we got characters like Icon, Black Panther, and stuff like that. And then it really changed the game for us, which allowed us to really appreciate comics. So this video was more or less just, just a little bit of information thrown in with a little bit of my opinion, a little bit. But for the most part, this is all stuff you can kind of search up and look up and kind of inform yourself for Black History Month. I do this kind of, I always want to inform people about information that's out there that's public. I think we all should be read up on some of the details of what history was like previously before this generation came out, because you already know the saying, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So let's just, reflect and, be aware of what history has, where we came from and, how far we've come, but also how far we need to go. And this video isn't so, so lucky, go, haha, joyful and all that stuff. But ultimately, I just wanted to bring you some knowledge for Black History Month. I promise next week's video is going to be a little bit more upbeat. Maybe I decide to do something that, like Ernie does, and just like basically break down a comic, Black centric comic. I did it for Black Panther actually for 2, and it actually didn't do too bad. And that was like a really long time ago. But I might do it for something else. Maybe it'll have something to do with Blade. I'll check it out, because Blade and Winter Soldier, I think, have a solo run for, I think it's a mini series. I think it's about like 5 or 6 issues. It might be on issue 2 or 3 right now, but I'll check it out. I'll look it up. But let me know what you think about some information like this, and let me know your opinions and your experiences when it comes to being a person of color, reading comics, enjoying superheroes, and whatever the case may be. Let me know what your experiences have been, because I would like to, get to know you guys and relate, especially I'm a person of color, especially, for my other people of color out there. I'm pretty sure you've been ridiculed for having interest in comics at one point or another. Just let me know what you think in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. And like I said, leave your comments down below, and I hope to speak to you later on. Happy Black History Month, and peace out.